All right, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us again. Uh, this afternoon's class, we're going to talk about our listing manager that's in RWT Connect. We're really happy to have Ryan Means with Reliance Network back with us again to do this training for us. Just as a reminder, if you need help or you have a question in the middle of this class, you can feel free to raise your hand or go ahead and put it into chat. We'll be monitoring that. We can certainly interrupt our speaker if we need to. Otherwise, we'll do Q&A at the end. If you're not able to raise your hand or put a question into chat for whatever reason, you are more than welcome to just email us at websupport@rwtown.com after class. We'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ryan for our listing manager and seller reports class. Thank you so much.
All right, and I have started sharing my screen here. So here we are on the rwtconnect.com dashboard. And typically I would do the training directly from this, but I don't have any listings for this account. And so I am going to be using a different account, but I just from this dashboard wanted to show you how you would navigate to the two different sections we're going to talk about today. First, if you click on your navigation icon in the top left, we have an actual listings section. Now, the listings section is where I'm going to go for most of this training today. However, I am going to spend a little bit under marketing and flyers because I really want to show off some of these flyers and the capability that they have, and then talk about some things that are coming soon. Now, I am going to be doing this from a sister company's account. This is BHHS Northwest up in the Pacific Northwest, and I'm just using an account that has listings. So from this account, I'm going to go ahead and use our navigation icon, and I'm going to go to the listings section. Now here you should see any of your current active and pending listings. And then if you have any recently sold listings, they will show up if you click the show sold listings. Since there can be a large number of these, we don't load that by default to make this page load as quickly as possible so that you can get to the current active ones, because that's what we assume you're working with anyway. But if you are trying to get information from a sold listing, you do have access to those as well. Now, from this page on the left-hand side, the left column here are MLS numbers. Those are a clickable number, and clicking on that is going to take you to more sections for that particular listing. It's going to take you to our listing manager for that listing. But off to the right, there is another button that's clickable, and that's under the LV heading. And then you'll notice if you hover over a heading, it does give you additional information of what that heading is. So this is our listing views. This is the number of times that that listing has been viewed. And then to the right of that is the number of times it was previewed on a map. That is much less commonly done than it actually being viewed totally and actually viewing the listing detail page. But this one is if they click on the little pin on a map, it's going to pop up a little thumbnail of that listing and show them a little bit of details that they can then click into to get to the listing view. But don't be discouraged if you see a lot of zeros in that column, because that is, in our experience, much, much less commonly used. To the right of that, you have whether or not this listing has a floor plan, whether it has a virtual tour, whether it has a video tour, and whether it has any upcoming open houses. You'd see additional information underneath these if that was the case. Now, I'm going to use this particular listing for 14451 Blue Mountain Way as my example, but this is going to be the same no matter which listing you go into. Once you click on that listing, you're going to get to the listing's details. And from here, you have a few different things. First, you have a listing display link, which is the full URL. If you were to go search for that listing on your website, click on that listing details, that's the URL you're going to be using. We also have a shortened URL. That shortened URL uses your MLS number to quickly get to that property. If you didn't know, you can put in your URL, so your subdomain.thecompanydOmain.com/any MLS number, and it will load that MLS or load that listing. So if you're trying to share a listing to social media, that's by far the fastest thing for you to type in versus having to type the full URL, which I would never memorize, and I'd really have to go copy and paste that. But if you know the MLS number, your URL/MLS number, and you're done. We also create what's called a single property website, and that's going to be based off the actual listing address. Now, what we include in that is going to be the street number, then the actual street name, and depending on your market, some we do include the city name as well. But typically it's just street number and street name to keep that a really short, condensed URL. Of course, you can share that as well. We also generate a QR code for every listing. The moment your property is listed, you have a QR code that you could put on any of your marketing that when someone scans that QR code, it's automatically going to take them directly to the listing detail page. And you can download that in small, medium, or large format, depending on what you're planning on using it for. I've seen some companies where they hang these up in the office windows and allow people walking by to scan QR codes for properties. Off to the right, you've got your photo and tour summaries. This is where you can add an additional photo, floor plan, or virtual tour, as well as just access your main photo gallery where you can edit the order of images, upload new images, replace images, whatever you're wanting to do. Below that, you can edit your listing description or your marketing remarks, as they're called in a lot of markets. If you do make any changes to these marketing remarks, please make sure you click Update Listing Description. Otherwise, you didn't actually save that to the listing and it's not going to show on the website. Now, if you've got them enabled, you have the ability to add listing banners. We have some automated banners like new or price reduced or open house that are automatically going to show up on your listing on the search results page when people see those. And that's if it's new in the last 7 days or if it has an upcoming open house in the next 7 days, those would show up automatically. But you may also have the ability to add company banners. And there's a variety of banners that could have been created for your company. These may or may not be applicable to yours. But if they are, you'd be able to potentially select that banner and have that banner showing up on your listing. There's also potentially the option for custom banners. And with custom banners, you can create your own banner. For example, you'll see in Michael's account, he has the Charlie Horse Ranch. And that was because that was a really big listing. He wanted to focus and he wanted to make sure everyone knew that this was the Charlie Horse Ranch. So he created that custom banner. When you search for the property, you see the property on search results. That showed up as a banner on the listing photo. Again, if you make any banner updates, you do need to click the update button or it's not going to be live on your website. The option to include this as a luxury listing is typically an admin only feature, but that is something that may be potentially available and would then focus that as a luxury listing. That's dependent upon your market and may not be available. What is definitely available are the virtual open houses and regular open houses. Of course, you can schedule these in your MLS and we do pull in that data and automatically assign that open house to your listing. But if you don't place them in your MLS for whatever reason, or you don't want to put them in your MLS for some reason, you do have the ability to manually add open houses to your listings in the Reliance platform. If you do that, it's of course going to show up here. It will also then syndicate to any of the sites that we syndicate to for you. You can also add co-listing agents. Co-listing agents will display on your listing detail page. Along with you, there'd be your picture, and underneath that, there would be the co-listing agent's information. We do limit that to a maximum of 3 co-listing agents, and that's really just for space to make it look its best. There is the section that talks about listing syndication. So if you are syndicating to any different websites, you're going to see that right here in the listing syndication, letting you know exactly where this listing was sent. It's not just a list of where we do send properties, it's where this particular property was sent. So you can be sure it's been sent to those. You can also upload documents to that if you wanted to do so, and those attachments can display on the listing detail page for consumers to be able to download and view. So again, if you've got documents that you don't want to put on the MLS, but that you want to include on your website, you do have the ability to do that as well. Now, on the left-hand side, you've got a variety of different sections for this listing. Everything on the left-hand side is related to the listing that I'm currently viewing. The first one, of course, is photos and floor plans. Here I can see all of the MLS photos that have been added. You'll notice that they are tagged with MLS. So you know that that photo came from the MLS and was not a manually uploaded image. There's the option to have captions on your listing photos. Those would also come over from the MLS if you brought them over, or if you add an image, you have the ability to add that as well. Listing images can be edited. So if I simply click the pencil icon, I can add that description or that caption to this photo. I can also check the box that says this is a floor plan. So if I've uploaded a floor plan as an image, I can simply mark it as a floor plan so that people know, and then it can add a floor plan button to my listing detail page that quickly takes them to that photo so that they can view that floor plan. I could also, of course, replace this image here if I wanted to do so. I can also delete images from even whether they were added from the MLS or manual. There is the red X to delete that photo. Please note that if you delete that photo, it is gone. There is not something quick and easy to bring it back. You will have the ability through the add images to potentially pull back MLS photos, but just note that if you delete one, it's not as easy to recover. You can also drag and drop these in any order. I don't want to mess with this person's listing, so I'm not going to actually leave this anywhere. But as you can see, simply clicking on it and moving it around allows me to reorder these photos. I want to leave it at the end, so I'm going to simply drop it back where I picked it up from. But you can then change the order of any of your photos really quickly on your website. You also have the ability, as I mentioned, to add images. That's going to pull images from your computer. And if you were to upload an image from your computer, it goes at the end. It says manual with the blue line underneath it, and it is immediately shown on that listing detail page. Clicking the X immediately removes it as well. So it's very quick and easy to add and remove photos. And then, of course, if you do make any changes here, you do need to click Save Changes. I forgot that one. It doesn't automatically go live. Even if I move this, I have to click the Save Changes before that's going to go live. There's also the Advanced Edit button, which looks like it's got a little bit of a design bug I'm going to have to report today. But if you do that, it just opens up the description box for each of these photos so that you can quickly add those captions. Rather than having to go into each edit mode on each listing, it's very, very quick to add captions. Captions are one of those things that is great to add to your website, even if you don't add it to the MLS, because it makes yours different. It allows your site to stand out, which Google is going to notice, and Google is going to rank your listing higher on your website than it might on those listing portals, simply because you're doing something different. If your listing is exactly the same on your website as it is on others, you rank the same as the others because you have nothing unique. But any little change that you make to make yours unique is a benefit. Next up is our tours. My changes may not be saved. It's letting me know I've done things. I didn't save it. I'm good. I'm going to leave this page. I don't want to save. Now on your tours page, we do have 3 different sections that you can add tours. They all work basically the same way, but they were designed for a different purpose. The virtual tour does open in a new browser tab. That's the difference with a virtual tour. When you click on it, it's going to open a new tab with whatever video URL you have put in there. So that one is actually going to take you to another page versus displaying in page. But it is also going to be full screen. So there's some benefit there and some potential drawback. A virtual showing and a video tour show it as an embedded pop-up. When they click on it, it's going to pop up and open up on that window on the same listing detail page. It doesn't navigate them away, but it's also not full screen. The biggest thing to note about a video tour is that it is not allowed to have agent branding. We syndicate listing tours to places like Zillow, and they are very strict on the fact that you're not allowed to have agent branded videos on your listings. So please make sure that you don't add those to the video tour section. They can be done with the virtual tour or the virtual home tour because those are not being syndicated. But you do need to enter the full URL of whatever video you've got. So if it's a video that's actually a video, like a YouTube or a Vimeo, you're going to put that full URL here. If you use Matterport tours or any of the 3D home tours, you really want to put those in the virtual home tour because those don't work as an embedded pop-up. That's why the virtual home tour takes you to a new browser tab. But if you wanted, you could put a video link there and it'll just take them to the video link. And that is totally fine to do. It's just not what it was designed for. Next, we have your registered views page. Now, registered views is going to really just show you who all has been accessing the site, who all has been accessing the listing, excuse me. Here you'll see a client name if they're registered to you. If they're registered to some other agent, you don't get to see a client name here. But it will tell you the agent that has that client that viewed your website so that you can reach out to that agent and say, hey, I saw one of your clients was looking at XYZ listing. Do you think they have any interest, or whatever the case may be? It's kind of a reverse lookup of who's been searching your property or who's been viewing your property. Now, you can also view potentially the client history, and you can email the agent directly from here if you have the client record or the agent information showing up. The reason all of these are NAs is because these were unregistered clients. These were just people who went to the listing detail page without being a registered viewer. So I can scroll through different pages and maybe I'd find someone that has a client or an agent. Then you'll see clients with most views. Now, this is only for your registered clients, but it is going to show you who all has had the most views. And so these are only going to be the registered clients. There weren't any, so I'm not being able to see anything here. You can also change the date range for this. This listing could have been older than that, and I might want to search further back, and you can do that. Now, the next one is seller insights, and I'm going to come back to that one because I quickly want to touch on location. Location, we automatically determine based on a few different things. That can come from the MLS. Some MLSs actually allow you to manually place it, and they'll give us an actual latitude, longitude. This one here has based on the address. So we'll tell you what that placement was based off of. If we can't find it with the address and they haven't provided a latitude longitude, we will not have a location on the map for your property. It's very rare that that happens, but it does occasionally happen. In that instance, someone who draws on the map searching can't find your property. So when you get a new property, one of the best things to do is come in and just check all of these fields. Check the location, make sure it's right. I've never been to this house, so I don't know, but I assume Michael would be able to tell you if that's the right property or not. If it's not, you have the ability to manually place it. You can drag the map around and then you click place property and you click where you want that property to be placed, and you'll see the little red icon moved. I can move it back and now it's back on the correct location. If you manually place it, be sure to save manual placement. Otherwise, it's not manually there. Now, if you don't happen to know the location, you've never been there, you don't see it on a map, but you do know the latitude, longitude, you can manually enter those as well and save the location. That's pretty rare that I see people doing it that way, but just know that it is an option. Now let's talk about seller insights. Seller Insights is by far the best part of listings in Reliance. Our Seller Insights product is our seller report. This is your listing activity report, for lack of another way of saying it. And this really has some powerful functionality. First, I'm going to talk about this top section last, because to me, that's what you want to do last. You want to add your contacts and get this set up, but you want to do that after you've really figured everything else out. You could do it first, but I always just choose to do it last. So first, how often do I want this to go to my seller? Well, every week is fine. If you wanted to do it less often, you could. You can also say, don't send it automatically. Allow me to manually send that. And that's perfectly fine as well. But for the most part, every week is what you're going to select. Now, these reports are sent out on Mondays. So if I save this right now, he's going to get a copy today, but he's also then going to start getting this on Mondays. And he only gets a copy today if I check this box, which I always do, because I want them to see it immediately. Unless, of course, it was just listed. Maybe there's not any traffic yet, and I don't need it to go yet, and I want to let it wait till Monday, which is perfectly fine too. Now, the next option is, when do you stop sending it? When do we stop sending it on your behalf? And by default, it is when it sells. When the property is sold, we stop sending it no matter what. But if you want, you could say when it goes pending, he doesn't need to see this report anymore. Because once it goes pending, maybe there's no more traffic. Maybe in your market, you don't have the ability to have pending listings on your website, in which case there would be no new traffic, and I might want to stop it at pending. That's a personal preference, of course. Now, if you make any changes to the report schedule, be sure that you do save that. Otherwise, you've not actually made those changes. You also have your view nearby properties. And by default, we're going to use a 1/2 mile radius to determine which nearby properties to show. But you can expand that. Maybe this is a very rural listing and 1/2 mile is just not going to do it. There's not a lot of activity around it. Well, I can, of course, increase that to up to 10 miles. Now, 10 miles is pretty broad, and if you need broader than 10 miles, it's going to be pretty rare that that occurs. But there are times when 10 miles might not be good enough. Or maybe your property is kind of unique for its area, but there's another area or there's other listings in your market that would be great comparables for this property. And this is kind of like a miniature CMA or a really quick CMA for you to set up. So you do have the option of using a saved search. Now you would want to create that search first on your website, and then you can add that saved search. Now, when you go into your saved searches, you're going to notice a few things. One, you'll see all of your actual searches that you've manually created. But you're also going to see these pop-ups that show active properties or pending properties or sold properties for neighborhood report, search ID, and some number. Those are automatically generated based on a radius for a seller report that you have set up. So if you're using Seller Insights on any of your listings, you will have saved searches that are based on these active, pending, and sold properties. You can't use these. These are not searches that you can apply to an online seller report or to a Seller Insights report. And the reason is you don't have to. They're already there because of the radius. That's all that is. Those are just your radius searches, but we have to create those in order for your report to actually function. So just note that those are not necessary. But maybe this Happy Valley is the one that really works for this listing. 1/2 mile is not going to do it. I needed very specific property types or very specific structural types or an amount of acreage or whatever the case may be. I built that custom search. I'm going to select it. And now the listings that are shown on my Seller Insights report are going to be based on that search instead of my 1/2 mile radius. Now, at this point, I've set all of my settings. I'm ready to go. I've got a subject, Seller Insights, for that property. That's perfect. I don't really need to actually update that, but maybe I wanted to do something different. I have the option. I can also receive a copy of these, and that's a personal preference, but I like to get copies of everything I send my clients. I want to see it. And I know that fills up my email with a lot of junk sometimes, but it's a great way to make sure that one, it actually went out, and two, it looks fantastic. You can also update the message. This is going to be the message that we show before the link that they will click on to actually receive or open the report. By default, since we last spoke, I have been busy marketing your home through the following ways. And then you're going to see this section, the Seller Insights. Hi, you'll see this contact first name. That is a automated system that's going to replace that with whoever you send it to. So when I come up to my contacts and I type in Ryan Means, it's going to replace hi contact name with hi Ryan. Since we last spoke, here's that message. I've been busy marketing your home through the following ways. And then it's going to list what we call tasks. Now, these tasks are automated, at least some of them are. We're going to say that you created property flyers because you did. Even if you haven't personally done it, we created them for you, so they're created. It's live on a company site. It's live on the agent site. It also went live on your syndications, and based on where we syndicate your listings, that's what you'll see there. If you're not syndicating to homes.com, you're not going to see homes.com here because we didn't do that on your behalf. But these tasks are just the automated tasks. There's also an ability for you to manually add to this to really showcase what you do for your listings. And I think that's a really powerful feature to add as well. I'll show you how to do that in just a few minutes. Now, of course, on the right, you've got your branding. You're going to see your lovely photo, your name, your title, and phone number. And then there's a Have a Questions button, which is a call to action to let them contact you directly through our platform. Then you get the beautiful photos of your listing, and I assume you all have amazing professional photos. So they're all going to look this good. There is a button to view all photos, so if they wanted to actually see the rest of their listing photos, they can do so. They also have quick links to the listing website, which is that single property website based on the address, and then the listing detail page, which is the full, really long URL, your marketing remarks, and then the actual report begins. Now you're going to start with your listing traffic summary, and this is just the traffic for your particular listing that we're looking at. In the last week, it was viewed 21 times. It had the flyer produced 8 times, and it was emailed out none. So no one has been emailing my listing or sharing my listing. Sorry, this was detail views, not report views. This is not your flyer views. This is your actual listing detail views. The last month, and then since it was listed, this property's been viewed almost 50,000 times. That is a lot. Now it has been listed since June, so that's not too surprising, but that's a lot of listing views. In the listing detail, it was viewed 1,224 times, and again, it has never been emailed out for whatever reason. Now, these counts are based off of not just your website, but your syndications as well. We pull in traffic from Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and potentially Homes.com for all of our clients that are syndicating to those sites. So these views, these search result views, are not just on his website or his company website. They're on all of the different sites that you're syndicating to as well. Next, we're going to show a chart. And unfortunately for this listing, this chart is a little bit disappointing. They started off with a lot of listing views and it dropped way off, and they've really not had much since. Now, it's hard to tell, but there is a little bit of activity over here. It's just so little compared to what they had that first month. That first or few weeks even, that first few weeks, they really had a lot of traffic. And so this looks a little bit disproportionate. But you can also toggle this to the listing detail views, which looks a little bit better, but it still looks a little rough. And this is what I tell all of my sellers. The first few weeks is where we're really going to get traffic. If we go past a couple of weeks, it falls off. And this is proof of that. So you can show them, maybe we didn't price it right. Maybe we didn't do something right with our marketing to really get it to sell in that first couple of weeks. Now we're going to put up the logos of the companies that we syndicate for your company. So you should see the Zillow, the Trulia, the Realtor.com logo showing up here, as well as, of course, your company logo. And we do mention that monthly and daily activity may include data from these external sources. If you see their logo, it includes their detail or their views, excuse me. We also give a little bit of an informational on what these things actually mean. What is a search result view versus a listing detail view? And then we're going to go into the properties at a glance. Over the last 3 months, 10 homes sold on an average of 41 days on market and a median sale price of $619,000. Those properties at a glance are based off of whatever I selected in my view nearby properties. So if I'm using a radius, those are based off that radius. If I'm using a selected saved search, it's based on my saved search. However, I changed this and I have not refreshed my page. So mine is still actually based on the radius of a half a mile because I haven't saved and or I haven't refreshed the page since I made that change. But there are those 10 listings. Whoops. Oh, it did actually. It's now automatically updating. That's news to me. So it is automatically updating that, which is fantastic to show how many homes sold based on whatever criteria you've entered. Next up is going to be the actual properties. My market summary. There are 3 properties currently on the market. Yours should always be first, and you'll see it says your property. Then it's going to show any other active properties. Now, to get this report to load as fast as possible, we have limited this to only showing up to 6 properties in each category. So an active, I could show up to 6. I only see 3 because there were only 3. But if there were 18, I would see 6 here, and then I would see this view all results button. And that view all results button is what creates that active save search that I showed you up in my searches that are for a neighborhood report or for a seller report. That's going to be what my view all does. Now, if I have pending and sold properties in that search, let's go back to a radius and let's increase that back up to 10. And it's no longer updating for me, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this to force it to save. Whoops, I just sent that to Michael. Oh, well. He knows I play with his account, so he won't mind too much. But once I get down there, I would also see a pending and a sold section potentially. And in that section, I'm also going to get this report. So this market summary report, well, if it just updated, I should get updates for, statistics for those searches. Well, and now I have an error message. See if I can't get it to save with just that. I can also potentially pull up the email that I'm sending myself, which should go out shortly. Sorry, teaching live is always fun. But I should get statistics. I would have statistics for those active properties. I would then have the pending properties up to 6 with a view all button, and then statistics for pending. And then I would have the sold section again with up to 6 and a view all to see more. And then I would have the actual statistics for those solds. Now at the bottom of that, which unfortunately might take a moment to load, there it goes. We've reloaded. I go back to Seller Insights. I'm sorry, we're in the middle of a push right now, so it's going to load a little bit slower than normal. There it goes. And so here are my actives. Now I have 6 and my statistics for those actives. I love when it works for me, as well as the view all results button I mentioned before. Then I have my pendings. There are 10, but it only shows 6. View all results and my statistics for those pending properties. And then I have my sold section, just as I mentioned before. And then I have this section here. This is my average list price for the active and sold properties. This is for everything above. And my average sale price for just the ones that have sold, of course, since there's no other comparison there. Then I do median. So we have the average and the median because those numbers can get skewed by outliers pretty drastically. Then we do the average list to square foot and the average sales price per square foot. It's going to show up down here in the bottom right-hand corner. And then the last section is what we call your market summary report. Now, this market summary report has absolutely nothing to do with the search or the radius that you created. This is going to be entirely based off of a zip code. And that zip code is going to be the zip code that is contained in all of those searches. So whether I use the radius or my save search, it's going to look at what zip codes are available in those searches, and that's what it's going to use. Now it's going to automatically pick the first zip code, which is 97015, and all of these statistics and charts are based just off of that zip code. But because Oregon City, where this search is, happens to have 2 zip codes, I can switch that to the other zip code, and I'd be able to view that zip code's statistics instead. And there those have loaded. And I'm going to get the average sales price, number of homes sold, new on market, average days on site, and the properties currently for sale, as well as what the expected asking price or the percentage of expected asking price. This is really how many price changes are there in that search. How many times did the sold properties change price or have a price reduction, I should say, before they closed? What is the difference between list and sale price? And it's expected to be about 100% right now. How many properties sold by price range? So the most active price range in this market is $500,000 to $750,000. That's a pretty good price range considering that happens to be the price of my listing. Oops, I went too far. The price of my listing is $749,000, and that's the top of that big market. So I know I'm in the right price point to be in the average of my market. And then how many days on market are we averaging over the quarter? How many properties have been on the market for how many days? That's your seller report, but I have one more piece to talk about, and that was that task manager. And that task manager is over here on the left-hand side of your page. From here, you can add any additional tasks that you want. It could be that you placed a sign in the yard. And then you can pick what date you actually placed that sign. Well, for this one, everything happened October the 4th. I'd say I probably placed that sign October the 4th. And I can submit that. Oh, first you have to confirm the task name. Then you can submit this task. And now I have placed sign in yard on October the 4th showing up. And that's now going to show up on that seller insight when it goes to my client. I can add when I posted it to social media as an advertisement. I can add anything that makes sense to me that I want to advertise to my client that I've done on their behalf. I can also delete things. Maybe I really don't want that task to be here. When you're deleting, you have the option of deleting it from all of your seller insight reports. So if there's a task that you've added to all of them, like maybe you posted social media ads, you no longer want to feature that, you can delete this from every single listing you've got at one time. I don't need to do that, so I'm just going to leave it and click yes. You'll see that that's going to then disappear. So I only have the 6 tasks. If you make changes here, make sure you save them or they're not saved for your client. I can also drag and drop these into any order that I want. Now that's the task manager. The last thing I really want to talk about is flyers, and that's because these are incredibly powerful. Now, if I click flyers from a listing, I'm going to automatically be taken to the flyers for that listing. I don't have to then select a listing. However, I want to show you a feature back from your own website, and this is really powerful. For those of you who don't have your own listings, you probably, or hopefully at least, you're doing some open houses on other people's listings. Well, if you come to marketing flyers and you don't have any listings, when you go to pick a listing, you're going to see your office's listings. And I can instantly select a property from my office. And now I'm making a flyer for myself based on a listing from my office. So I don't have to go ask for the photos. I don't have to go get the marketing remarks from the MLS. It's all here automatically. And all of these flyers are automatically generated for every single listing that you ever would need them for. We even have flyers that automatically add open house info to them. So if you're hosting an open house, it can be really useful to include that. Now I'm going to just pick a random flyer. I'm going to go with this one. And of course you can preview these and it does replace it with your listings information. I picked a listing that's not going to be super fantastic for this. Let's pick a different one. We're going to go with this listing. And I'm just going to, again, pick a flyer preview, and you'll see it automatically is showing that listing's information. And I like this. This looks great, but I really kind of want to put different text in here, and maybe I don't want 2 front of the house photos. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this. And editing a flyer in our system is so fast and easy. It's all sectioned out. So when I come over here to flyer content, I can pick the color, which is just the bar on this particular flyer. I can pick the main photo or go to the photo gallery, and I can now change any of these images. I don't want that second of the front of the house. I'm going to remove that. I don't need this many of the kitchen, so I'm going to remove them. Maybe I like 2, that's okay. Now I'm going to add images, and when I go to add images, it's going to show me all of the MLS images. So I don't have to go get them. I want this bed, I want this bathroom and this bedroom, and maybe also this bathroom. I'm going to add those. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't remember how many photos this flyer had to begin with, but it doesn't matter. I can add as many or as few as I want, and it's going to automatically resize them on the flyer so that they fit. And look at that. It made them all a little bit shorter. You're getting a wider view of that image, but now they all fit beautifully on this flyer. And I've now updated my photos with almost no effort. Now I'm going to go ahead and change the listing content because I want to do so. Now there are some things to note with editing the listing content. This section is kind of a formatted section, and then there's also my equal housing opportunity. I don't want to take those off. So when I'm editing listing content, make sure you don't really mess with this too much. Now, if you wanted, you could add another bullet point here for maybe acres and put in that it's a 1.2 acre lot. I don't know this property, so I'm just making that up. I can also change the text, of course, and write some marketing remarks. Whoops. I could type. I could also, of course, change this to not be capital letters. I could make some other changes if I want. Please don't delete this icon for equal housing. It should be there. You could add other icons here, maybe your logo if you wanted. And then you can save that and you'll see it's updated my write some marketing remarks. It added acres in here with 1.2. It didn't quite format it perfectly. So maybe I was supposed to put a tab. No, I'm not really sure what the difference is there. I think maybe double space, save. It's still not doing it. I can't remember the quick trick to get that one to work. It's not really something that I tend to change. I tend to put my marketing remarks up here. And then, of course, you have your signature. Your signature is all of your branding, and you can update that right here, right now, before you print this flyer. Maybe your phone number was entered wrong or your email. You can change that on this flyer. It is so quick and easy to do. Now I can also save this for future access, so I don't have to redo all of these edits when I want to print another copy. I can create a PDF. This PDF is a full resolution, high quality, printable PDF. These are large. These are not flyers for emailing. If you want to email this flyer, we recommend you use the social image. The social image is going to give you a downloadable JPEG image that you can then share on social media. You could share it in an email. You could text it to someone, whatever you wanted to do. You can also send this directly from our system rather than downloading an image and creating an email elsewhere. If you click send, it's going to take you straight to our email editor with this flyer attached, allowing you to go ahead and add any content underneath that you might want. So the flyer is automatically in the middle there. The flyers are just incredibly fast and easy to work with. We have a large variety already, but coming soon in this quarter, we intend to release some new flyers. These flyers are going to be geared towards social media posts. All of these have a little bit too much text. They're not as visual as a social media post. So we are going to be releasing a series of new flyers that you will see very soon. They're going to be square and they're going to be much more visual and designed for social media posting. You could still print them out. There's still a PDF button on those if you wanted. And then you have that option as well. Now, the last thing I would mention is this default button. What does set default do? Well, you should be receiving an email. When you get a new listing, you should get an email with a link to the flyer, a link to the single property website, a link to the listing detail page, a variety of content. The link to the flyer is going to link to whichever you set as your default. By default, I think we set one as your default, but you could switch to any of the others, whichever one you like to use. And now I don't have to come into the system to get it. I simply click that link and it takes me straight to that flyer. It's really, really powerful. That's all I have for our listings and our flyers. Are there any questions that I can answer on this topic?
We just had one question come through and we were able to answer it in chat. If you have any questions at all about the listing manager or the seller reports or these flyers, go ahead and raise your hand or put the question into chat. And just as a reminder, I know some of you guys, again, are in training rooms, and if you don't have that ability, you can go ahead and ask it at websupport@rwtown.com. Kim, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
All right. If I was going to tell somebody, say a newer agent, to hold an open house for an agent, they have a website. Can you just verbally tell me one more time how would a new agent sign on to their website and then make this flyer real quick? I understood how to make the flyer. Just tell me how to get to it fresh on from your website.
Sure. So as soon as you come in, Oh, I'm not showing. Sorry. Let me show my screen again. As soon as you log into rwtconnect.com, the first thing that you'd want to do is click on the navigation icon, and then underneath the marketing section, you'll see flyers. Now, when you first come to flyers, you're not going to be seeing this listing number here. It's going to automatically open this switch listing view. If you have your own listings, they're going to show up at the top up here above office listings. And then you'll have a sold listings button where you can load all of your sold listings so you can print flyers or create a social media image based off a sold listing. And then you'll see the list of office listings.
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you. That's exactly what I needed. Just that quick review of how.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I think that was our only question. This has been a really great session. Thanks again to Ryan Means from Reliance for being here today to do our Reliance classes. Hopefully everybody has learned something new. If you'll want to stay with us, we have a class at 2 o'clock today on your Facebook business pages and getting the most from those Facebook business pages. Thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you again in about 15 minutes. Thank you.
Have a great day.